Michael, first let me start by saying thank you. I appreciate your coming out. I know,
David, for you, it's my absolute pleasure.
I know how you love doing these things. There are very few people I know that are busier than you and wear more hats than you. You wear you're, of all the people I've ever met in my entire life, you are the best person. You're literally...
We gotta get you to meet more people.
True, but you are shockingly nice, although you cover it up very well. You are one of the best businessmen alive. There's no arguing that. You're certainly, in my opinion, the best deal guy alive. You are probably the best relationship guy I've ever known. And you're probably one of the best fathers I've ever known.
You made me start blushing.
Well, it's true. I mean,
Thank you.
I know how busy you are, and I know how you dislike doing these things. So I appreciate your
that is
supporting me.
I got you.
showing
For
up
you, brother, I got you.
I appreciate it. You know, obviously an incredibly accomplished career. Started as an entrepreneur with your bar mitzvah money, ski business. How does that happen? How do you go from being a kid, getting a few bucks for your bar mitzvah and turning it into a ski company?
Look, for me, I really think that people are built, born with different skills. And, I tell people all the time I was a horrible athlete. I was a shitty student. But the one thing I was good at was business. And I always loved working from the time I was a young kid. And, people gravitate to what they're good at. And I always gravitated toward, any different type of work or business that I could do. So, for me as a, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, I was, starting different entrepreneurial businesses. I was always, it's something that I loved doing, something I was passionate about, and something I was good at, quite frankly. And so for me, I think that entrepreneurial gene it's either in you or it's not. Sometimes it takes a while for people to get out of their body, but for me, it was something I was born with.
So you're in Lafayette Hill, Pennsylvania. You are hustling with bar mitzvah money. I'm sure it started with other things, but then you start this ski company. And today you are part owner of the Philadelphia 76ers. How does that transition happen? I mean, it's truly an unbelievable story.
People always ask me kind of like, when you look at things, like, how do you feel about it? Someone asked me this morning, like, do you ever reflect back? I'm like, actually, I don't. Like, I don't think about it.
I'm the same, by the way.
I always just, I go. Like, that's the way we're built. That's the way good leaders are built. That's the way good entrepreneurs are built. So for me, I think, I've always just been able to use, one thing to build on another thing, and I've always learned from the different things I do, both the things that I've been successful with and the things I failed at. And the Sixers have been something that's been it's been exciting to be part of it. It's been I've been able to add value from time to time, but also I've learned a lot from being part of the Sixers, and that helps me in Fanatics, and then Fanatics helps me to be a better part owner of the Sixers. And look, it's neat to be. You grew up in Philadelphia. I grew up as a Sixers fan, so it's great to be involved in your hometown team. But for me, it's just, hustle and work ethic and determination, kind of help, steer your life. And, that's a place where, I think I'm relatively strong.
Yeah, well, relatively strong is an understatement, but really an amazing.
Or we're understated, things go well. When we're overstated, we get bullets in the back of our head.
That's true.
So we always try to stay understated.
Under-promise and over-deliver, right?
It goes far.
So somebody who knows you, like me, 25 plus years, I think you could say that your first business has led to your current business in many ways, right? So you start in the ski business, then you convert that into global sports, then you convert that into GSI Commerce, then you sell that to eBay, and probably the greatest transaction I've ever seen. You spin out of it Fanatics, which today is the world's premier sports licensing business, and then some. Talk to me about the process of sort of the transaction with eBay.
For me, actually, I don't look at it as actually a great transaction. I think what we've done with the business since is really what's made it great.
Do you have to say that to make the guys at eBay feel good about it?
No. It's people. A lot of people actually think what you think, and to be honest, they're wrong. When we bought Fanatics, it was a $250 million business that, quite frankly, was very undifferentiated. And there's this little company in Seattle called Amazon. There's another little one in China called Alibaba. And if you don't have a really differentiated business, you kind of become roadkill to them. And so what made Fanatics really special is I had in my head a strategy 10 years ago that I knew if I did the following 20 things, I could kind of, change it into a really differentiated kind of special business. But it wasn't that when we bought it. So, eBay came to us in 2011, and they had a really solid rationale for buying GSI. They want to take all the big merchants we work with, Ralph Lauren, Burberry, Kate Spade, Toys R Us, Dick's Sporting Goods. They want to get those merchants into their marketplace. They didn't want to be in a business where it owned inventory like Fanatics. And so, they kind of said, look, we'd like to buy the company, but, we'd love it if you could buy Fanatics because that's not core to what we're doing. And for me, I said, you know what? Fanatics could be a great business if we completely transformed it. So it's easy to look at what Fanatics is today, but if you look back 10 years ago, it was literally a completely undifferentiated business selling merchandise that you could buy anywhere. Today, everything it sells is, first of all, we really think about the fan first. How do we give the fan everything that they want and really give a better experience? But Fanatics, is truly, it's a better business model because it's really a direct-to-consumer business. It's better for the fan. They get a broader assortment, better service. It's better for the sports properties because they make more money. And it's better business for Fanatics. But we've completely transformed the business to where most of what we sell is special. It's differentiated. It's exclusive. And then what we did was we took that business where we acquired really the best database in all of sports. We have more than 80 million customers.
It's amazing.
And we have 1,000 properties that we work with, sports properties and colleges. And we're really this only direct-to-consumer sports platform. We said, okay, now we can start to transform the business to having the merchandise business, what we call Fanatics Commerce, become the first pillar of building a digital sports platform. And then we could build sports betting on top of that, and NFTs and trading cards and over time media. And so really what we've done is, it's kind of like if you would say, what was Netflix? When they delivered
Sending
DVDs.
DVDs out, or Uber when they owned cars, right?
Right, and so this is a much different business. It's one that we've really transformed and reinvented several times over the past decade.
Well, listen, there is no question that you have reinvented Fanatics in a way that no human could have possibly contemplated, and
including me at the time. We had the playbook in our head for how to, kind of transform the commerce business, but at that point we weren't thinking about, okay, how do we take the database and how do we build a trading cards platform? How do we build a NFT platform? I didn't even know what an NFT was a year ago, enough 10 years ago.
I remember talking to you about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's part of being a good leader. You figure out what's important and where's the world going, and how do you give your fans what they're going to want long term.
Well, also, back to being one of the world's best relationship guys, right? Because you're one of the best guys, people want to work with you, right? You do these incredible deals where you don't just partner with the leagues, you empower them in many ways, right?
Yeah, look, I believe, everyone kind of gravitates to what they're good at. For me, I joke all the time saying, I legitimately barely made it out of college. I was a terrible student, as I already said. What I was really good at was I had an incredible work ethic. I had some pretty good common sense, but I also built great relationships. And to me, building great relationships is really important. If you're in business and you build great relationships, people want to work with you and want to accomplish things together. And then when you want to do new things, you kind of win together. And so I think, building incredible relationships is part of what any good company does. You're in the business of doing that.
But I'm not as good as you.
But if your customers don't.
But I learn from you.
Well, we all learn from each other. But if your customers don't, value the relationship with you, then you don't have customers for life, because you need to have both a great product and have a great relationship. And I think we do both together.
Yeah, there's no question. So when you think about the sports landscape, right, it's moving around a lot. And we'll get into some of the new stuff you're doing in a minute. But when you step back and you look at sports as an opportunity for a marketer, remember we have 3,000 to 5,000 marketers watching this today. How should marketers think of sports as an opportunity?
Well, first and foremost, I think your 3,000 to 5,000, partners and clients, they should spend all the money in sports. They should spend money nowhere but sports. That should be the only place they market. Look, sports is obviously, there aren't many things that people are more passionate about than sports. I think people think family, sports, religion. That's where a lot of people are in life. So, for me, sports is my religion. And I think, most people are pretty, it's amazing how sports unites people, brings people together. And so I think, the sports industry, it's a big industry. It's an exciting industry. It's a passionate industry. And it's an exciting place to market. For me, we feel like the company that's really building the leading digital sports platform. We're bringing together, giving the digital sports fan, over time, I hope we have billions of sports fans that, kind of get all the digital sports needs from us globally. And that's the opportunity we have. And so I think, for a marketer, there's not many areas where I think you can more effectively, deploy dollars to, connect with, with your fan. But obviously, every business is different. And, in your 3,000 to 5,000 clients that you work with, they all have different needs and, different things that they want to, address.
But passion, focus, love of their teams. One of the things you've done so well is understand that sports is local and it's national.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and generally people are either they're either really passionate about their team
Yep.
or a player. I mean, great examples like Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady won 6 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. And people, they hated the Patriots because they were jealous. They were so successful. Like,
Right.
how do you, the people who live in New England, there's nothing they love more. But, every time I walk around with Robert Kraft, people say, I want you to know, I have so much respect for you, but I hate the Patriots because all you do is win. But when Tom Brady left to go to Tampa, I was like, I can't believe this guy's going to, one of our most important athletes in our entire business is going to this little, city, Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I got to tell you something. He brought with him millions of fans, tens of millions of fans,
Right.
who are fans of Tom Brady. And that's an incredible thing in sports.
Is that the highest selling jersey ever?
Tom Brady is definitely our best-selling athlete in the history of the business. And he's an absolute beast. And he's, and on top of being a beast, he's a terrific human being, which makes it even that much better.
Yep.
It's a guy you want to root for.
No, I agree. He's a really nice guy. When COVID hit, we're going to switch for a little bit. A lot of people talked about the plight of individuals being affected by COVID, right? So there's sort of two sides to the COVID trade. There was a side of people who really benefited, and there were a side of people who were really left behind, specifically children who didn't have access to food, their parents were on hard times. You didn't just talk about this, you stood up the All-In Challenge. All-In Challenge raised how much money?
Biggest digital fundraiser ever, $60 million.
$60 million, digital fundraiser. And back to relationships, you brought some of the world's most interesting people, including Tom Brady and others, to do events, create special opportunities, create special sort of just products around them for charity. How did you stand up the single biggest digital fundraiser in history in a couple of weeks?
Well, first, I think it comes to, I'll bring it up a level and say, for me, up until 2017, I spent my whole life always being very charitable, but never really caring about, like people would come, I'm just being blunt because that's my personality.
No,
like people, you call me and say, hey, I need help with this charity.
Yeah, I need a table, you cut a check.
And here's a check. And I did that, hundreds of times in a year. But I didn't actually do the work.
Thank you.
It was always my pleasure. And really what I learned in the last 3 or 4 years is if you do the right thing, you get such a reward back, and you can't quantify, you don't know how it's going to come, but it comes.
Yep.
And so, look, it's a widely known story. I had a friend who went to prison for.
That was my next question.
Yeah, so I had a friend who went
Meek
to prison.
Mill.
Yeah, who for not committing a crime, and I didn't know you could go to prison for not committing a crime. And myself and Jay-Z and his business partner Desiree Perez spent months working to get him out of prison. And once we did that. I actually had a friend of mine who's now the Attorney General running for governor in Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. He said to me, Michael, if you just help your rich friend get out of prison, then you haven't turned this into anything special. And right then, he actually gave me the idea originally to say, look, we got to do something about the problem with the broken criminal justice system. That's when we started the Reform Alliance, which has been one of the most effective organizations at changing the broken probation and parole laws. But I tell you this because when COVID came, I found myself for the first time in my life locked up in my house. And that's not something I'm used to
Which
doing.
you're not good at.
Yeah, I'm not good at that at all. And so I got addicted to this terrible drug. And the drug was watching CNN,
Right.
which is very depressing.
It can be. Although we love CNN, big client.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't. It's addicting.
No, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And so I found myself watching CNN every night, looking at how many people had COVID, what was going on. And I first heard people talk about no one had masks. And I woke up in the middle of the night that night, which is normal for me, and I'm like, wait a second, I own a factory that makes all the jerseys for baseball in Pennsylvania. Why don't we turn that into a mask making factory? And I called my team and they said, great, but what materials are we gonna use? I'm like, just we have material to make jerseys. Use that same material to make masks. And we did that, and literally, a week after COVID started, we made 1 million masks that we delivered to healthcare workers.
It's amazing.
And here was the interesting thing. Our team at our company, they were in the middle of no sports, thinking the world was coming to an end. They're worried personally and they're worried professionally, okay? Am I gonna get sick and die personally?
Right.
Am I gonna have a job professionally because there's no sportsman in
Yeah,
the
of
sports
course.
business? And the team was so satisfied and excited, and so much, appreciation for being able to help make a difference for COVID. So that really motivated me. So we did that
So that was the first taste.
that was the first taste, and we found ourselves saying, "What next?" And then, I don't know, it just popped in my head, the middle of a few days later, what if I leveraged the relationships we had with the different athletes we had to get them to deliver great experiences that we could then either auction them off or we could raffle them off. And
Well, the raffle idea was really cool. Talk about that just for
yeah,
one second.
well, the interesting thing was the original idea was just to do it with athletes, and I remember I called Meek Mill, my friend who went through this experience we just talked about. I said, hey, I got this great idea. I just want to see what you think about it. I'm going to go to every athlete we know, to Joel Embiid, to Tom Brady, and say, give a great experience, and we can either auction it off to someone who wants to buy experience. Tom Brady was, come get his game wearing jersey, then go to dinner with him. Could be, play, a round of golf with Peyton Manning. And we had the idea, and Meek was like, well, why wouldn't you do it with artists and celebrities? I'm like, great, what do you want to do? He's like, I'll give you my Rolls Royce. I was like, okay, that seems pretty cool. And then
cool.
literally Kevin Hart called me a half an hour later about something. I'm like, hey, I just came up with this idea, and I'm like, why don't you be a trainer for that? Kevin's like, be a trainer. I'll make someone a movie star. So I started with Joel Embiid teaching somebody how to play basketball, and Meek Mill giving away his Rolls Royce, and Kevin Hart putting someone in his movie. And so it was at that point this thing was made before it started, because now you had some of the best celebrities and athletes and artists creating these once in a lifetime experiences that you could either do an auction for, or you could do a raffle. And the great thing about the raffles, we didn't want this just to be that rich people were helping.
Well, that's what I
We
liked
wanted
about
to
it.
be that millions of people helping. The great thing about the All In Challenge, we had 1.5 million individuals who donated to win a chance to get one of these once in a lifetime experiences. Be in a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. Be on the set of Friends, and it was truly spectacular. We had 600 or 700 athletes, artists, and celebrities that did these once in a lifetime experiences. Every day these experiences just get delivered. Just as I was walking up here, Tiki Barber texted me and said his radio show today had the All In Challenge winner that was hosting the show with him, and it's pretty. Justin Bieber is going to go to someone's house to sing a song at their house, so it was truly special.
That was special.
It was truly special, and I'll tell you, the most incredible thing was we raised $60 million for people that needed food, that had that were starving because of the pandemic. But I'll tell you, our team at Fanatics, our 8,000 plus employees, they felt honored and privileged to have an opportunity to help these millions of people that we helped raise $60 million for.
And by the way, they were all in. You had every person in the digital group, every person in your operating group, you had all of the people in your manufacturer. You literally went all in on the All In Challenge.
Yeah, it was great. And so if there's one thing that I think would be useful for the people watching this, the great thing about what the experience I went through with Meek and starting the Reform Alliance, and then delivering 1 million masks to people that need healthcare workers, and starting the All In Challenge, which was the biggest digital fundraiser ever, was that in each of these things there was never an agenda.
Right.
But I'll tell you something, honestly, and I could have never told you this 3 years ago. In some way or effect, they've all helped build our business.
Of course.
And so you do the right thing. You don't worry about what the payback is, because if you're doing the right thing, helping to make the world a better place, you generally get paid back in karma, and karma dollars are really valuable, and they create great value for your business.
And I think we both know people who are on the other side of that trade, and they get paid back the opposite way, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So look, I always try to focus on the positive. What I can tell you is when Meek went to prison, and I was spending an enormous amount of time and energy together with Jay-Z and Desiree Perez from Rock Nation to get him out of the prison, I had 100 plus people that called me and said, are you out of your mind? What are you doing? Don't get involved in this. This is gonna be bad for your business. I was like, screw everybody, I didn't care. And you know what? I went with my instincts and I did the right thing. And then we started the Reform Alliance, and I gotta tell you something. I've learned so much about, the tens of millions of people that are treated unfairly from the criminal justice system. And by the way, it's made Fanatics a better business. I use that learnings to help build the Sixers, the Fanatics. So everything you do, if you do it right, it pays yourself back. So I tell people that all the time. People come and say should I really spend this energy or time? I say, from my perspective, I'm 3 for 3.
Right.
I've done, I've given away lots of money. That's easy. But when you spend your time into something and you put your real effort, I think you get paid back in a big way.
I totally agree. I mean, First in the halo effect, second in what you learn and what it teaches you about people.
And I never had
your
any,
business.
and I'll tell you, I never had any agenda with any of it. And
No,
it's al-
I know you didn't.
it's always-
We talked about it all
it's
the
always
time.
just worked out.
It's both worked out because you did the right thing. All right, let's transition. Let's talk a bit about digital transformation.
Yeah.
So when you think about marketing today, COVID created a lot of challenges, right?
And a lot of opportunities.
With great crises come great opportunities and times to effectuate change, right? So we've seen at Zeta the single biggest jump from analog to digital marketing probably in history in one time. And you saw some of the biggest transformations in history from analog to digital, whether it was in-store shopping, restaurant delivery, all of that. How did that affect, first and foremost, Fanatics?
Yeah.
And then second, what could other marketers learn from what you guys learned at Fanatics?
Well, the first thing I learned is I don't know shit. Because I told my board, so March 12th, the NBA paused the basketball season 2020, and we had our quarterly board meeting randomly was the next morning. I told our board, look, our business is going to be down 50 to 75%. We've been through strikes in sports before. If there's no sports, it's kind of like you're in the business of selling sports merchandise. There's no sports. It's generally not going to be a very, very good recipe. So we should talk about a rescue package. Like how is SoftBank, who's one of my investors, and Silver Lake, and how are we going to all step up and save the company from going bankrupt? That's what I told them on March 13th. The first 2 weeks were pretty shitty. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to keep our fulfillment centers open. Were they going to let people work in the fulfillment centers as essential workers? And by like week 3, we realized, you know what? If all the stores are closed and the only place you can buy our merchandise, even if it's, they're not playing sports, it's actually a little better of a business than we thought. So if you're a digital business like Zeta Global, you couldn't be better positioned because you have so many big companies that need to reinvent themselves and become much more digital, much more quickly. Everyone knew how important digital was before, but it moved the pendulum ahead, 2 to 5 years, depending on
5 years.
what the business was. And so we saw, we took if you look at our business, we had a 2 to 3 year jump forward from an e-commerce perspective, which is the majority of our Fanatics commerce business. So I think it's been great. Even if you think about going to a sports venue or a sports stadium for a game, and there are still physical tickets. There aren't really physical tickets anymore. Everyone, everything's digital now. It's all, so it's every business is being transformed, and I think. You said it already. You never waste a good crisis, and so there's huge opportunities to reinvent yourself. And I think everything we're involved with did that. We're now the difference with us, by the way, we didn't really trim overhead at all. We were fully focused on building a great company and taking advantage of the opportunity. A lot of people also trimmed overhead during the crisis as well, and so they were a tighter business, but with the long-term prospects. We just focused purely on growth. But it's been great for Fanatics. E-commerce accelerated, our digital platform accelerated, fans accelerated their digital adoption, and I think it's the same thing in many of the businesses that you work with.
Yeah, no, it's true. So let's talk about the innovation hat that you've worn so well through your life, right? So a lot of people have been looking at how non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are going to change industries, right?
Yeah.
Once again, a lot of people are buying art around it. They're looking at collectibles. You took a very different track. So you roll out a new business called Candy, which is trying to really change the game as it relates to sports and NFTs and trading cards and physical and digital sort of in one ecosystem. Talk to me about the germination of the idea, the creation of the idea, to where you see it going 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, well, first, I'm not sure that I know where it's going 5 to 10 years from now, and I'm completely comfortable with that.
That's fair, by the way, yeah.
And, let me bring it up a level and say, I think Fanatics that started as kind of this leading, kind of global, commerce or merchandise platform, I think we have a responsibility to give the digital sports fan, everything they need to improve their experience, connect with sports even better. And so we don't always need to figure everything out, Well, when something is important, we better be a very fast follower.
Yeah.
And so, I think we created a new business model in the merchandise category, building this direct-to-consumer business. We really started doing, and by the way, with a much broader assortment of merchandise. And we started that, really aggressively 10 years ago. When the truth be told, it's a great story because I love to make fun of myself. I'm a very easy target, as and everybody knows. So, I remember in December of last year, Mike Novogratz called me and he said, "Hey, I think that you should, we were talking about making this new business. He said, you should sell digital collectibles." And I said, "Well, what's a digital collectible?" Literally, this is 11 months ago.
Yeah.
I said, "What's a digital collectible?" And he explained it to me. I said, "You think we can sell those?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Great. You want to do a partnership on that? Let's go." I had no idea what I was talking about.
Right. Well, back to the 80 million registered fans, right?
So 3 months later, NFTs are coming out of nowhere. They're becoming really prevalent. And what I recognize is that, it's really kind of going after a crypto space, but not really the broad sports fan. For us, with 80 million plus sports fans and the goal of having billions of sports fans, globally long term, it's our responsibility to take care of the sports properties, to give them the different digital sports products they need. And certainly what I can tell you is if you're a sports property, this is a space that's going to be very important, not only from a financial perspective, but how to better connect with your fan. Today I was in a Candy board meeting, and the CEO of Candy, Scott Lowen, was showing the digital highlights. We do a play of the day in baseball, and we were watching the way we've had so many fans that have connected. Think about your baseball now. You've created this new revenue stream, but more importantly, it's putting the content in the hands of your best and most important fans. So I think this is going to be a really big space. I don't know exactly how it's going to develop, but what I can tell you is we're going to recruit the best talent. We're going to work with the best sports properties. We're going to leverage the database that we have of sports fans, and that should be a pretty big outcome for everybody involved.
One would assume, right? I mean, you've been successful at almost every outcome, starting with skis. You can be humble, but
listen. We've had lots of failures.
Well, we all have.
And you know what? I love failing because when I fail, I always learn from it. Yeah. I grow from it. I figure out what I get wrong. I figure out how to be better, and that's part of growing. It's fun. Like I just said to someone, I went to a game last night where we failed at winning against the Milwaukee Bucks, and I had a friend of mine I went to the game with, and I was basically saying to her, some of my failures, even in each day, there's not a day that goes by when I don't have wins and losses in the day. And those losses, you grow from them, you learn from them. That's just that builds character.
I always say you either win or you learn. Yeah. I don't even like the word fail,
I agree with that.
Because it's so many people get so down on themselves. Like I failed. It's an opportunity to learn and emerge. So fan experience.
Yeah.
How does digital change the fan experience? So now we've talked about manufacturing, we've talked about e-commerce, we've talked about digital, we've talked about NFTs, we've talked about trading cards. How does that all come together in a consolidated fan experience, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, for us, I think there's not another company in sports and entertainment thinking about how do you really bring the digital sports fan most of the key things they want in one spot. And I really do believe today, I think Fanatics has an opportunity to have billions of sports fans throughout the world to look at Fanatics as a beloved brand, one that gives them all the things they want to do, from buying merchandise at Fanatics Commerce, to buying trading cards and trading them, to buying NFTs, to placing their bets, to watching media. And by the way, new things that we haven't even thought about. I mean, think about it, they didn't have sports gambling 3 years ago.
No.
They didn't have NFTs.
Well, they had it. It just wasn't legal.
Correct. Yeah, they didn't have sports gambling for business I could have been in 3 years ago. We didn't have NFTs a year ago. Nope. So that's the exciting thing about this business. So look, I believe Fanatics is we're not even in the first inning of the game yet. We're just getting started. That's what's so exciting to me. And I think our job is to have the best teams, work with the best sports properties, and ultimately give the sports fan everything they need to better their experience. I mean, if you really think about it, think about the business we started in Fanatics Commerce, the merchandise business. You used to have to go to a store as the only place to buy your merchandise. But a lot of times, if you were a fan of a team that wasn't the city that you lived in, it was hard to get that merchandise. Yep. What college did you go to?
I went to Washington and Jefferson College.
Okay. So if you want to buy a Washington Jefferson T-shirt or hat, there's only one place you're going to go get that.
Well, I call you when you send it.
Well, it's going to be from the internet. Okay. my point is, we've made the experience better.
100%.
You know, and if you're who's your baseball team?
The Yankees.
Okay, so if you didn't live in New York,
I'm sorry.
If you didn't live in New York,
well, I'm in California part of the time. In
so if
Miami.
you're in California, you want to buy Yankees merchandise. It's pretty difficult to buy that merchandise. And
Very hard.
So what we've done is, we've given a chance to take millions of products and make them available to sports fans globally, and that was a breakthrough. And everything we do, you got to think about the sports fan. How can you create a better experience? And by the way, there are businesses today, they're digital businesses with shitty experiences.
Yep.
We got to say, well, how do we make that experience a lot better? How do we keep breaking glass?
Well, I say all the time, people shop on platforms online. Don't have to be the cheapest. They have to be the most efficient and easiest to work with.
But they have to give. But ultimately, what you need to do is give the fan a reason to do it with us. That we're better. That we keep finding ways to improve the experience. I'll give you an example right now. Today, one of the things I don't like about Fanatics is the average delivery speed is 5.8 days to get a package delivered. But you know what? We're working right now to cut that in more than half over the next 2 years. We're now duplicating inventory in all of our fulfillment centers. We're adding more robotic fulfillment centers because we're never satisfied. By the way, when we get to 2.8 days, you know what we're going to say? That sucks.
Now,
How do we get to 1.5 days? When we get to 1.5 days, we're going to say, that's not good enough.
Did you learn that when you were undercover boss working in one of the warehouses, Michael? That was, I have to say, one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen.
Well, probably what you enjoyed most was how bad I was.
It was really funny.
And I get
Although
it.
you sleeping in a motel was pretty good.
That was not enjoyable. So, I learned a lot, by the way. Like, I'd never worked. Look, I worked in our warehouse for days. I worked in our call center. You see a lot of, to be honest, you see a lot of dumb shit that happens with your own company.
Right.
And you know what? It's great when you can just make mental notes and you can call and say, but I don't think anyone who was at our company liked that I actually worked.
No,
in
and
the
that's
company.
what made it so great.
Yeah, but it was a great learning experience. I mean, I wish I had the time to do it again, and I should.
How many calls did Doug get post that?
Well, that was pre-Doug. That was actually GSI Commerce. That was in 2009.
I remember watching it live, on CBS when it came out. Last real question. Put your marketing hat on. Forget about sports. Forget about digital. Forget about sort of what's going on. What is the best advice you can give to a marketer who's trying to build a brand, and as a part of building that brand, ultimately they want to sell their products, whether it's insurance, it's content, it's manufactured goods, consumer packaged goods, automobiles. What's the piece of advice that a marketer should think about while trying to build their brand and therefore sell their products?
I mean, what comes to mind when I get asked that question is, how do you make your product better for your customer? How do you differentiate in a better way? Like, I'm always thinking about how can we improve what we do continuously. We just got to get better and better. So if it were me, I'd think about, how do we differentiate in a better way? By the way, I don't want to differentiate to be similar or worse.
Right.
I want to differentiate to be better. And then, for me, like, I always want to be aggressive. Like, I don't want to be in a stable company. I want to be in a growth company. So to me, I always want to say, what can we do to break glass to be aggressive?
Well, Michael, as somebody who has broken a lot of glass and put a lot of things together, I want to say thank you so much for spending time with us today. And as you know, I love being with you, and I really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. Love you, brother.
Thanks, Michael.